Something I never understood. You mentioned the whole thing with I guess people who claim to be Christians and kind of wiping out or kind of ignoring what the Torah says about just the Jews belonging in the land of Israel. I never really understood how a person who claims to be a Christian could do that. Are they just their theology? They're just throwing out 90% of the theology into the trash. Like what's happening there that
Mhm.
is leading them to this point? Like people like Stu
Mhm.
Peters. Not that I
Mhm.
believe that he's a real Christian, but there's a lot of people like this who are, claim to be real Christians, and
Mhm.
it's just being thrown out. And on top of that, they're going against Israel. On top of that, I see them
Mhm.
on Twitter. They're, talking about how Jews mistreat the Palestinians and all that kind of thing. It's a strange thought process to me.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, there's a couple things that are part of the problem within Christendom. Most Christians don't read their whole Bible. They only read the New Testament section. And in fact, I've seen Christian Bibles that are only the New Testament. They've completely omitted the the Tanakh, or as they call the Old Testament scriptures. You can't, and I tell my students that I teach in our weekly Bible study, that if you are going to lay claim to the New Testament scriptures, then you're going to have to be able to back up those scriptures in the Tanakh or in the Old Testament, because we know within the text of the Tanakh um, that we're supposed to we are to confirm a matter before a cloud of 2 to 3 witnesses. And as I tell my students, those 2 to 3 witnesses that are going to back up what you believe about the New Testament scriptures, you're going to have to find them in the Torah, in the prophets, and in the writings to substantiate your claim, your position. Most Christians are not trained that way. Most Christians go to church on Sunday, or maybe they do a Bible study that really has no depth to it. They don't really search out the scriptures. They sit underneath a pastor who has been conditioned in seminary, if he even went to seminary. Not all pastors go to seminary. So even if he went to seminary, those pastors are typically taught replacement theology. There's very few seminaries that actually teach the Hebrew roots of the Christian faith. And I know there's one, John Garr, who is in Atlanta, Georgia. He has a seminary. It's not very big, but there are people out there, pastors out there, that do want to understand the Hebraic foundation of Christianity to better understand the New Testament scriptures. So, replacement theology is a big issue. Not studying the Bible from a Hebraic perspective is a huge issue. And I brought this up in my comments on Friday afternoon as well. Um, if people don't know the text of Scripture, and they don't read the text of Scripture from a Hebraic mindset, not from a Greco-Roman mindset, therein lies the other part of the problem, is the Greek thinking of Christianity. If Christians believe that Jesus was the Messiah, Jesus was a Jew. He would have been considered an Orthodox Jew. He was also considered to be on the edge, a fringe group that was believed about him at that time. So unless we can take Christians back and put Jesus in his proper context, then they're going to believe what has been taught. I was raised Catholic, and I remember growing up hearing comments about the Jews being the Jesus killers. This is this blood libel, this deicide libel, um, that is making a comeback again today, is still pervasive within Catholicism and within Christianity. And so that's why we have people like Candace Owens, who hasn't studied her Bible. In fact, somebody asked me at the event if I would debate her. And I said, absolutely, I would. Candace doesn't know her Bible. That's her problem. If she knew her Bible and she knew what the scriptures said, then she would be a Zionist. So to answer your question, I believe that's the biggest problem that we have.